Good evening. I'm Tom Conrad, the Superintendent of Schools, and welcome to Superintendent Spotlight, a half-hour show dedicated to people and programs in our district. And tonight we got a special treat. We got two of our finest from the middle school, and so let me introduce our guests. To my immediate left, we have a technology teacher, Brandy Jackson. So Brandy, great to have you here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
And then, of course, our excellent principal at the middle school, Maxine Menkoff. So Maxine, great to have you here as well.
Great to be here.
Tonight's topic is going to really center on a program that the middle school has established over the last couple of years, and it's called Makerspace. And it's really gained a great deal of popularity at the school, and it's growing leaps and bounds both at the middle school, and we hope to take this model and push it out into the entire district. So let's see what we can find out about Makerspace. So Brandon, do you want to kick it off with a little bit of an explanation and so forth?
Sure. What we see with particularly middle schoolers, but I think children everywhere, is that they really learn concepts better when they can put their hands on something. And so what we've done is created a space where kids can learn, sometimes independently, a lot of times they're learning with each other, and then there's a couple teachers that come in and provide lessons. But what they do is they do hands-on learning. There's crafting, there's painting, we do robotics, we do a lot with electronics and circuitry. We've just started exploring 3D printing, and soon we're going to get into laser cutting, really using all these really cool tools where a computer is able to create something with a machine. And so a kid dreams it up in their brain, draws it out on a computer, and then the machine actually makes it. And really what we really love about it is because it's an after-school activity, now we have something for every kid in our school. We have something for, whatever a kid is interested in. There's some place in our school that they can get plugged in, which is really important.
Yeah. Maxine, that's been an important piece of your planning at the middle school, isn't it? Particularly the after-school program.
Yes.
Because you really inherited a school that was pretty much based on just sports programs. So why don't you talk a little bit about where you saw it going?
The Makerspace in particular. Well, it's kind of evolved. It's definitely evolved and keeps evolving, which is how I think some of the best programs develop. Because there was no set plan. It really originated with the Summer Institute, which originated with someone saying to me, would be great if there was a coding class for kids in the summer. It's a great idea.
So a simple question of you and...
Simple question, and I threw it out to staff. Anyone interested? Brandy responded, and that led pretty quickly into a 3-week summer science institute, which has been a huge success.
Now, you've had that for a couple of years.
Yes. Yeah. And
This is our third year running.
We're going into our third year. The kids build underwater robots. They test water quality around different ponds. They do public service announcements. They do an enormous number of different projects related to conservation, sustainability, really appreciating the Cape and how to treat it well.
So how, we got a lot of viewers who are watching tonight and hearing this for the first time. This is a program open to who, and is there a fee involved in this? And so, because we could have some potential people out there watching who might be interested. So.
Oh, I hope we do.
Yeah.
There is a fee, but Orleans Pond Coalition in particular has been a very strong, very solid supporter, and they've given us money for scholarships for kids.
I see.
So each I think it's $325 now per week for students for a 5-day program from 9 to 3.
Wow, 6 hours.
6 hours, and there are 6 teachers involved from the school who help the kids at different aspects of the program. So the kids can be working on different projects all day long with different people. And it's open to kids coming into grade 6 through kids going into 9. And in fact, we've had so much success with some of the older kids that they've asked if they could come back and be interns.
Wow.
So this year we have
4 interns.
4 kids that are coming back as
To help.
teachers, and they actually helped write some of the curriculum, which was really exciting.
Oh, that's a great, great shift because kids teaching kids is just
Yeah.
the
It's
best.
wonderful. It is. And kids also problem solving and just deciding on their own, what am I going to create and how do I do it? Or it wasn't light enough down there in the pond, so I have to put new lighting on my underwater robot and I have to figure out how to do that, which one of the kids did a magnificent job doing. But what this led to get back to the makerspace, is we asked the question, why end this after 3 weeks? How can we extend this into the school year so that all kids have a chance to do project-based learning in areas that interest them?
So you took it from the Summer Institute into an after-school program that you
Yes.
had mentioned, Brenda.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because it just, the idea that we're going to take all this learning and put it in boxes and then not get it back out until the next summer. And different than some of the programs on Cape, the kids actually get to keep the technology. Like it's theirs at the end of the week. There's other programs that are similar to this. But some kids, because we take kids of all needs, some of the kids may not finish in the full 3 weeks. So now there's a workshop set up that if they don't finish, it's okay. They come back in until they finish. And there's not that anxiety of the 3 weeks is over, what am I going to do? And we've seen them just own it and really move forward in that, which is exactly what we wanted. Each week we get a few more kids. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's exciting.
You build it, they will come.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
kind of like our makerspace of dreams.
Now, I've visited the Summer Institute, and I was fascinated by some of the projects. So maybe you can tell the viewers some of the projects you worked on. The one I'm still trying to wrap my head around is the air conditioning.
The air conditioning, I do it.
Well, so that came out of need. The library is right in the line of the sun the whole day, and there's a lot of windows. And it's on the second floor, which means all the heat rises. And I'm like, okay, well, when you're hot, you're frustrated, and we have to use the electrical components, so they're going to put up heat too. So we obviously couldn't afford to air condition the whole entire space. And we knew we were going to be using power tools later. So I'm like, well, why don't we do a power tool checkoff? You know, like they're going to use all of the tools that they'll be using in building their robots. So you've done your safety check, because safety first. And we found this thing online, and I call one of my friends because she lives in Atlanta and she uses it. And she's like, yeah, it totally works. You should do it. So we got these 5-gallon buckets, and we got some insulating coolers, and we drilled holes in it. You fill it with ice and you just blow a fan through. And what happens is the air gets cool. I mean, it's kind of your personal air conditioner. Like, you can set the air conditioner here and you can blow it on you and you will be cool. But I'm sitting over here, I'm not going to be so cool. But it was really cool to see them make something and then figure out, like, oh, well, this isn't working because we should do this instead. And they just kept redesigning and kept going back to it. And I loved that. And I loved that they saw something, you know, they saw a problem they had that they wanted to solve. And so that's what our Makerspace and the Summer Institute are all about. What's the problem? What do you want to do to solve it? You find a way to do it, not how can I solve it for you as the teacher. You have to figure out how to solve it, because there's a lot of problems in the world that they're going to have to solve.
Yeah, and we know that the 21st century skills are talking about problem solving, critical thinking, and the other interesting piece is that we don't often focus on it, but working in teams.
Yes.
And that's every time I visited the program,
Very big component.
that is always in place. Very
Absolutely.
few students work in isolation because they ask questions and try to help each other, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times we depend on the students to become the teachers. You know, we see the students that are doing really well, and we're like, okay, well, you're doing really well, and you're a little ahead, so would you show him how to do this, and then I'm going to show you how to do this to go the next step. And that ownership for a child, like all of a sudden you can see them, they stand taller, they talk a little louder. There's just a pride of ownership that is amazing to see.
So where has the program grown? And I know that equipment-wise, that's an ongoing process, right?
Do you want to take this one, or do you?
Well, I will say that you don't do this for free.
Yeah.
No.
There's lots of equipment involved, lots of materials involved, in addition to what we've talked about, Brandy is developing, and the Kate Harvey in the Media Center developing kits with different projects kids could take out, decide to do, and work on. So they have a lot of choice. So we
So
started
Maxine,
with grants.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that was an intriguing part for me to understand, and maybe the viewers as well, that we have kits of different pieces of materials and things like that. That it is so. This isn't like when I grew up. I was into making models of ships and so forth. And you do step 1 and then step 2. That's not the concept with these kits. It's,
No. There's a really cool website. It is called DIY.org, and it's created by the designer of Vimeo. It's like another version of YouTube. And what he decided after he made his millions is that he was going to create a learning platform for kids. And so we saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, we don't have to invent this. It already exists. And so we had the kids take a survey and figure out which things they were interested in. And then we picked out the top 50 that had the biggest, this is what I want to learn, the most common answers. And then we bought the supplies and we put them in little plastic boxes. And kids can come in and be like, I really want to learn how to make my own jewelry out of recycled materials. I want that kit. And they can go sit at a table and then they can make it. And eventually, hopefully they'll learn enough that they want to kind of take on some entrepreneurship with our school store. But it's a really cool, really fun idea. I think a lot of times the kids don't really understand it yet because it's very new, but I think that one's going to grow
Could
a
you
lot.
give examples of more of the kits?
Yeah, there's a hydropower kit where you can actually learn water with water bottles, and there's an air power kit where you can learn how air power happens. There's some really fun duct tape challenges where you go onto the website and you can see all the different things you can do with duct tape and you make something. There's a stop motion challenge where you can use Legos or clay and create a stop motion video. And they run contests all the time. Last week it was a love your buddy instead of, an anti-bullying. It was an actual friendship project, and you could make a stop motion video from that. And so there's tons of stuff. Sometimes there's just fun stuff like yo-yo tricks. Or one of the ones that's quite popular is a coloring book for when you're just stressed out and adult coloring. And sometimes the kids come in and they're like, oh, I had a rough day. And they'll just go take a book and they'll just sit down there and they'll start coloring. And you'll see this complete relaxation come over them. And then they're ready to go out and do something difficult again. And it's really nice to see them, even take control of their own mindfulness to calm themselves down.
So I've been in the library, but we have kits already set up for the,
there's about
the
50
students to come in, right? Now to the money part.
Now to the money part. Well, Brandy started writing some grants, and we started getting them.
Surprise.
Well, we're not totally surprised because the concepts were so wonderful, but that gave us a 3D printer, gave us another 3D printer, a scanner, and we actually had the Chamber of Commerce come in and had asked me, because there's new public art in Orleans, could we think of something interactive to do with the kids and the art? So we really bring the kids into the community into the kids. So that happened when we were first looking for a 3D printer. They were going to build us in to their grant, and we said, can you build in a 3D printer for us and we'll come up with the project. And the project we'll talk about in a second. I'm going to throw that over to Brandy to talk about. But once that happened, we did in fact get the 3D printer. That got you started in the makerspace doing the 3D printing. And I think you need to explain what has happened recently.
So when I got my master's, I had to take a grant writing class. And one of the things my professor said was, she said, you can't write a grant to get money. She's like, a grant organization can tell when you're just writing to get money. She's like, you have to have an idea. You have to have an idea that you're absolutely passionate about. So I was already passionate about the kids being involved in after school. I hate the idea of a kid going home on a bus and there not being someone there or feeling disconnected because we're such a big district. I wanted a place where they could connect, especially since they come from so many different elementary schools. So I kind of started with that idea with the grant. And we won a couple, small Cape Cod, very local grants. But then there's this cool program online that I've heard about before called Donors Choose. Which was just in the news recently,
in the news,
like on Sunday. And it's how teachers can kind of say, hey, this is an idea that I have, I'd like to make it happen. But I never like to go small. It's just not the way I work. So there was a competition. It was a STEAM competition, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. So we already knew we were trying to do part of this creative placemaking with the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce was going to buy us a 3D printer, which was great. But that grant was going to buy a 3D printer. It was not going to buy all the material to 3D print. It wasn't going to buy the screws, the wood, the paint. It wasn't going to do any of that. It was just going to buy the technology to build it. And I'm like, well, that's going to be great. We can show that. We're not going to make anything. So,
Very practical.
3 days before our open house where the parents came in, I said, hey, can I have a STEAM night? And we'll just open and parents can see what's going on in the makerspace. And Dr. Minkoff was like, well, are you going to do it anyway? And I'm like, no, I'm asking permission. And she says, okay. And I'm like, and they can talk to you. It goes on in my class too. It'll be great. So we did, and we sold some of the 3D printed things the kids had done. But we told them all the money that you're donating is actually not going to the school. It is going to go to Donors Choose. And it's going to fund this project we have on there because it was part of this competition. Well, so we entered the competition, okay, whatever, we're not going to win, but it's cool. And we get an email like the next day saying your project qualifies for the STEAM competition, which means that Paul G. Allen in the EMP Museum in Seattle is going to pay for half of it. And I was like, I should have made a bigger wish list. So that paid for half of it. And then a school committee member saw it, and they were like, oh, I want to help out a little bit. And then teachers, wanted the little phone charge we did. And then all of a sudden, in less than one night, literally our project was up for less than 12 hours. And it was, more than funded. And so when I went to go do the donation, it was also, Giving Tuesday or something. And it was if you type in giving, Donors Choose is also going to match that. And I'm like, okay. So I typed in giving, and it doubled. So this project that was $1,200 cost the school district $300, and the rest was all corporately sponsored. But then we still had some money left over that we had said was going to Donors Choose. So we made another project. But it was between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And now it's all these corporations that are trying to, pull their tax funding down.
Of course.
And so they're all giving money away, and then it funded again. And it just became this ripple effect that because we had said that this money was going to Donors Choose, it was, we had to actually put it there. We couldn't just keep it for something else. It was very important to be transparent that way. But then what was crazy is I knew that STEAM thing was a national competition. But, it was our first project. So it was my birthday, and
that explains it.
And so I was literally sitting watching something stupid on TV, and my phone goes ding-a-ling. And so I checked my message, and I looked at my husband, and I'm like, what? He goes, we're national finalists for the EMP Paul G. Allen Foundation contest through Donors Choose. He's like, well, what does that mean? I said, it means if we win, we get $10,000. $10,000.
And this is one of 3 finalists in the country.
In the whole country.
That is impressive.
Isn't that impressive?
So being the social networking maven I am, I'm like, Facebook, Twitter, school emails, Maxine, you need to call. Mr. Conrad, can you send out a... And we went through there, and... a week went by, and we got the email that we were in first place, and everybody was like, all right. The only problem was it was vacation.
That's right, because much of the country isn't on vacation.
Nobody that we were competing against was on vacation. So it was nerve-wracking. And then the last day, like the Friday that it was due.
Well, you have to explain, people were allowed to vote. The project that got the most votes would win.
Right.
And so that's what the social networking was about.
Of course.
Please vote. And you
Yeah.
could vote every day.
Yeah.
So getting
Many of
people
us
to
did.
remember, many of us did, to vote and keep voting was important. Last day comes.
And it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I get an email. And even though we were first place on Wednesday, it's Friday, and we are in last place. And we're in last place by 1,000 votes. And it's vacation. You know, it's not like, because the kids actually could vote too. It's
Right.
not like, you know, if we'd have been in school, it'd have been like, hey, kids, come vote. But we couldn't do that. We had to depend that.
And you know they were.
They were voting. They actually, one of the kids, Liam, yesterday was like, oh yeah, I won this. I sent it out to all my cousins all over. I called every day.
The kids
I
are
made sure they
adorable.
voted. He was like, yeah, it was important to me that we won, which I just thought
Isn't
was
that great to
awesome
hear?
that they
The kids-
owned it.
yeah, the
And
kids owned it.
everybody keeps saying, oh, congratulations, Brandy, congratulations. I'm like, and I'm like, I could not win this by myself. I couldn't. It might have been my idea to do the donors choose, but it took every community member to share it and then harass. I'm really sorry for all of the emails, but thank you so much. Harass people to remind them to vote every day. They have not told us the number of votes, but I was really shocked because we were up against a school in the Bronx. I mean, like, you know, they definitely they have more people.
Yeah.
And so that our tiny little school district could pull this off was really awesome.
And of course, we won.
We did. We won.
Yeah. And we got now it's $10,000.
It is $10,000.
And you'll be using it how?
Well,
Probably not quite sure yet.
we
Oh,
no.
she is.
Yeah, she is.
When we started talking about the makerspace, we kind of made a prioritized list of things we needed. And then we actually went out and looked at conservation grants. And I have to say a huge thank you to Bob Fellows because,
Absolutely.
oh my gosh, and the Masons here. They must just really love looking at grants because every day they send us 1 or 2 grants that the makerspace would qualify for. And so they're not big grants. They're, $1,000, $2,000.
That's great.
But, when you have a great idea, we can keep pushing it together and you get one thing taken care of, then you go take the next thing, then you do the next thing, and then you do the next thing. So the thing with the Donors Choose account is they do have some regulations on it. Like you can only spend so much at a time and you have to buy from one of their vendors because they get better prices because people are getting a tax write-off for it. So really looking at where do we get the very best bang for our buck. Is it buying the big technology, and is the technology that we can get through them the actual piece of equipment we want? Because sometimes it is and sometimes it's not.
Sure.
But there's so many consumable supplies that come in that I think we're going to use a significant amount for technology, but really build up our supplies so that kids can come together and work on stuff. Because one of the things that I really love about it, and it's just really taking off now, is there's projects kids are doing in class, like the Ancient Civ project, and the kids need clay or they need cardboard, and their parents have to go to town to buy it or buy it online, which is terrible. Now they can come here and they can work on it and they can learn together and they can learn with each other, and we're seeing, an even higher percentage of kids finishing everything. And when they don't finish and it's the day is due, like, well, you better go to the makerspace because that project is due today and you need to actually get it done. So it's doing even more than what we hoped it would do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
To both of you. I mean, this has been a joint effort for the beginning, and you can see how this continues to just expand. So where are we at with the equipment at this point? The major pieces.
The major pieces of equipment, we have, in the next 2 weeks, we will have filled out our 3D printing lab. You need more than one, and you need some of different sizes so that you can print large, small, some run at different speeds. So we've got our 3D printing pretty much handled. We actually are the only school on Cape that will be recycling our own plastic filament because we got a Filabot and another piece of equipment, the Protocycler, that actually will recycle the plastic and make it itself. And there's rumor on YouTube that you can also recycle water bottles, so we'll be testing that out to make it greener. The two big pieces we have left, we need to get a laser cutter because a laser cutter actually cuts cardboard or heavy plastic or even like heavy cardstock, and kids can begin to do algebra and geometry and build things out of it, which is really cool, and it's faster than a 3D printer. And then in the wood shop, we're going to get a CNC router because what the idea is you can prototype something in 3D printing, then you can do it the laser cutter and you're testing it in cardboard and paper before you go to wood. So we actually move through all the processes of prototyping, and then they're making something that's really high quality for themselves and for our community.
And in mentioning the wood shop, what's important here is the staff is collaborating, working together, whether it's science, whether it's wood shop, tech ed, art. You know, the idea is to bring the disciplines together, the staff together, and Brandy couldn't do this without everyone else.
Sure. It's interesting, Maxine and Randy, how you talk about the kids taking what they're doing in Makerspace into some of their core subjects.
Oh,
About
absolutely.
the history projects and things like that, and that's that whole school approach to this whole program. And
We've tied it into the greenhouse.
right.
You know, I mean, there's
really
no
gotten
ending to the
huge.
way we can make connections so kids could see learning as something real, something they apply to the real world.
And the interesting thing is, they're working with us to make the connections
Oh, yeah.
versus
That's right.
us telling them.
Exactly.
I mean, we go way back, Maxine, when you have a curriculum and you teach the following things, and this is the assessment, and this is flipped it.
Oh, totally.
In terms of its whole approach.
You know, we have concepts like in the technology class, they have to do Word, they have to do PowerPoint, they have to make a video. We don't tell them what they have to make it on. They choose something with the makerspace in mind that they can actually do there. And what's really exciting, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, is that in June, behind, from the Orleans Chamber of Commerce all the way back to the new whale sculpture, Nauset Regional Middle School will be doing a huge art display, all based on ocean conservation and ocean debris and the importance of keeping our space safe. And we've got 3D printed projects, we've got hand painted projects, we've got sculpted, we've got sculpture going on out of ocean debris. We're taking a field trip to go use someone else's laser cutter to do some projects, but it's actually going to be there from like the middle of June into July. So like when we have our huge summer population, they'll get to see what Nauset Regional Middle School in the Makerspace is doing to make Cape Cod sustainable.
I hate to do this, but we're just about out of
I know.
time. But listen to this. We're coming back again.
Okay.
We're going to pick another date to come in and catch up on how this project's going forward.
Awesome.
And what we're doing in the district potentially in the near future.
I'm very excited about it.
I want to thank the two of you for being here and all of your work with this. And certainly our students are being served so well by this initiative. And I thank you for all the additional work you're putting into this. And to our viewers, this gives you some insight into an exciting new program that you're going to hear lots more about in the future. Thank you, and good night.